Can you imagine marijuana stores on every other street corner, the same way you see liquor stores or tobacco stores today? Or even standing next to someone in public at a bus stop or a restaurant or a movie theater where they're smoking an electronic cigarette with THC instead of nicotine. As many states are decriminalizing marijuana and legalizing its use either medicinally or recreationally, we can see its use in the future becoming much more prevalent across the country. Marijuana, which goes by many names on the street, I guess you could say, such as weed or pot, it's just dried and shredded leaves, flowers, and stems of the cannabis sativa hemp plant, and it's most often smoked, but it can also be baked in baked goods such as brownies or cookies or cakes or anything you can bake. They'll bake marijuana right into. And the main ingredient that affects the mind and the body is tetrahydrocannabinol, which is most often just referred to as THC. But according to the 2010 National Survey on Drug and Health, marijuana is the most illicit drug used in America, and that was in 2010. But as it's just become more legal in more states since then, so I imagine the statistic remains the same. The main points I'd like to cover today are law enforcement and the criminalization regarding marijuana, the medical legalization of marijuana, and the more recent recreational legalization of marijuana. Some think of marijuana as a good way to relax or relieve pain or treat certain medical conditions, while others view marijuana solely as an addictive drug that is dangerous and harmful. Regardless of which side of the fence we stand on, you stand on, I stand on, marijuana has impacted history and American culture, and it continues to do so today as it becomes legalized across the country. Marijuana was first criminalized in 1937 with the marijuana tax, and that was it was the Marijuana Act, and it was basically just a high tax on marijuana. Most people couldn't afford to pay it, so they were either fined or jailed, and that's where, before then, there was no laws regarding marijuana. And it became totally illegal in 1970, and according to drugpolicy.org in 2012, 749,825 people were arrested for marijuana law violations, and 88% of those were just on possession, not trafficking, not distributing, just on possessing marijuana. It's also a Schedule I drug, which means it's classified in the same way as heroin, LSD, ecstasy, and quaaludes. So it's definitely penalized harshly by the federal government and in states where it's illegal. Although the federal government still has no laws legalizing marijuana, many states began legalizing it for medicinal use. The first state was California in 1996, and since then, today, 20 states, including DC, have passed some sort of legislation legalizing marijuana medicinally. The laws range from allowing possession of 1 ounce all the way up to 24 ounces of marijuana, and many of the states, it's legal to grow a marijuana plant or up to a certain amount of marijuana plants. But when the states that it is legal, the patients are diagnosed with a certain medical condition from a doctor, and then they register at some sort of some sort of, they have to get a card and register, and before they can buy it, they have to show this card. And the diagnosis of the qualifying conditions range from anything from HIV, AIDS, cancer, multiple sclerosis, to things like chronic pain, glaucoma, and epilepsy. So although there's been studies proving that certain medical conditions can be treated, or if not treated, the conditions, side effects lessened by marijuana, there are many states who will not legalize it, will not even entertain the idea of legalizing it until it's approved by the federal or the Food and Drug Administration as a helpful drug in the use of treating medical conditions. 2 states have taken the legalization a step further by legalizing its use recreationally. In 2012, Colorado and Washington were the first 2 states to pass legislation for adults to be able to purchase and use marijuana on a recreational basis, meaning they don't have a qualifying medical condition, they don't have to register anywhere, they can just go to a dispensary or a store and purchase marijuana. And the law states that it will be regulated much the way alcohol is regulated today, and only consumed by adults the same way alcohol is only sold to adults. Colorado sales began New Year's Day of this year, 2014, and Washington is supposed to start selling later this year. They haven't started yet. The legal marijuana laws, many speculate, will be much like the alcohol laws, and they think the theory is that it could turn out much like the alcohol industry and even be very profitable in many states, and even federally if it ever got to that level. So it's definitely a two-sided debate. There's people who firmly believe it's just a drug. It leads to anxiety, depression, addiction, just like any other drug. And then there's people who believe that when used responsibly by adults, it is a harmless substance or a not harmful substance. Regardless of which side of the debate you fall in, it's going to continue. It's going to be an ongoing issue until it is a federal decision whether or not it will be legalized. Whether one day it is federally legal or they decide it will never be legal federally. So